Hello everybody, this is Jeremy within the DAW. Welcome back to another video. Please excuse my voice. I woke up feeling terrible and I had to drink about like 5 glasses of tea and sweat like crazy in order to get myself to even be able to speak properly without it hurting. So keep that in mind when I'm doing this video. Now, today's video is going to be on Dreamtonic's Synthesizer V Studio Pro and their plugin. And before we jump in on anything else, let's jump into a session and just listen to what we have so we can see what we're working with. Here we go. Cool. So that's what we have to work with. I do want to state this. Every single vocal that you heard is 100% synthetically generated with Synthesizer V Studio, at least the plugin version. Now there is an actual software version, which is standalone, which is right here. But if you really look at it, it pretty much looks exactly the same as the plugin. So I tend to just work solely on the plugin. The way that this works is pretty simple. You have a piano roll, which is going to be your vocals and the notes that you're hitting. So we go 1, 2, 3, and we'll listen to this. We'll just combine these so they don't sound as sparse and sporadic. And this is where the magic starts to happen. You get to decide what vocal styling you want. So in my case, for my library, I have the Dreamtonic's Kevin, Mai, and Natalie. Kevin is a male vocal. Mai is a female vocal that is Japanese and English. And then Natalie is a female singer. Now, I noticed that Mai kind of does have that J-pop, K-pop synth vocal sound. And from what I understand when I was discussing this with the rep at Dreamtonic's, she said that that's basically what this is designed for. So very poppy, very J-pop. And it's actually really good. But Natalie is definitely my favorite vocal, at least for the English-speaking ones. And that's basically because that's the language I speak. So what you do is you can go here and select which vocal you want. And you'll see that it actually generates a whole new waveform for each one. You have your languages that you can select here, but you also have lots of other options like vocal modes, parameters, tuning, and the synth engine itself. Now, personally, I like to leave the synth engine relatively untouched, except for maybe changing the depth of the vibratos. But I really do mess a lot with the parameters in the vocal modes. So the vocal modes is where you're going to actually get different performances out of the synthesis. So this is just the la la la's without anything touched.
La la la.
Sounds okay, right?
La la la.
What if we want this to be softer?
La la la.
That works. How about soulful?
La la la.
And then we have warm.
La la la.
Soft and warm are actually a really good blend, but let's say we find this to be too tense. We can bring down the tension and bring up the breathiness just a little bit.
La la la.
That sounds great. Now, I really want this la to last a little bit longer, so I just stretch it out.
La la la.
Pretty cool. Now, you notice that sometimes we hear a little bit of engine noise, and that's what it's called when you hear the artifacts. And for that, you can easily just redo the take. But sometimes what I like to do is just completely delete the MIDI notes and put them back in.
La la la.
You can really fine tune things afterwards, but by the time it happens, when you're putting it into your DAW to edit, you can just fade it out, which is what I usually do. This works very well when you import the audio into the session, or what I do is you import the MIDI. So I go to import, I discard the session, and I import the tracks. So what I'm doing is I'm importing the chords that I made for the session that we worked on earlier that we have, and I hit OK. Now, when you import something that has chords in it or multiple notes played at the same time, it'll ask you if you want to let it clean it up. I put no. And the reason for that is because this is going to basically keep me in key. So I'm going to go to my project, synchronize this project. So I'm at 100 dB. And now I know the notes that are being played in this session. So I just create a new track, right? And I name it. So now when I highlight this track, I can actually see in green what are the notes in this song. So we can be in key at all times. Right? We'll go for something like my, and we'll set her to English.
La la la.
And then we can simply just make my have less tension, more breathiness, and be a lot more emotional.
La la la.
And then we can really fine tune this because let's say we don't like stuff like vibrato. We go right here. This little action symbol thing is basically going to give you pitch and timbre controls for the AI. So you can generate a new one and bring it down.
La la la.
You can also change the timbre of things and generate a whole new take. But I like to kind of keep this as a very subtle thing. So I don't really like to use this very often.
La la la.
And a cool thing is with my, you can obviously just see, hey, that's pushing the octaves a little too much. So we can bring it down.
La la la.
And that sounds really freaking good. Now, let's say we want to add words. We can double click or right click to do insert lyrics. I just double click and I hit tab to go to the next word. So I want to.
I want to.
Pretty cool. Now I'm seeing a little bit of noise on this. So let's try recomputing this and then generating a new take.
I want to.
Maybe not. We'll go back.
I want to.
Pretty good. Now let's say you have something that you don't really want and you want to fix it. You go to your pencil tool and you go right here. And this is your direct pitch editing. So you could actually help smooth out weird artifacts that come in this way.
I want to.
See, it got rid of it. Now I can do this again with the pitch control and be like, hey, I really want a lot less pitch here. So let's see what happens if we increase and decrease. And then we can go to the pencil tool with the direct pitch editing and do that.
Want to.
And there we go.
I want to.
Pretty easy. There's a lot more things that you can do. And one thing that I often find is that sometimes when you have words that are very long, you're going to need to split them up into different notes in general. So follow.
Follow.
It just doesn't seem to really work that way. So we can stretch this out. We do that.
Follow.
And that sounds a lot more natural because what you're doing is you're spreading it out between the notes. And then other notes can actually be changed.
Follow. Follow.
And you can get a lot more done this way. Now you can do different spellings of it.
Follow.
And you'll get completely different performances, which is really cool. And I think that's one of the main tricks for this software is you have to really figure out how things work. And a big way of doing this is when you type, you see how it's pronounced, right? Follow. Fall. Oh. So if you go into the note properties and you go down here, you'll see what's called your phenoms, all right? This is basically separating the different synthesized words into durations and strengths. And what I do is when I'm hearing artifacting, I notice, hey, it's hitting maybe right around here. So around here is where I need to actually split the word and make it do it completely differently. Because this
Follow.
sounds way different
Follow.
than than this. And let's say we want to make this the same length, right? Let's do this to here. This is the same length. So let's listen to follow this way.
Follow. Follow. Follow.
It sounds different. To me, this still sounds pretty usable.
Follow.
But I really like the creative control that you can have
Follow.
by having it go into a different note or having it the same note.
Follow.
So it really depends on what you're doing. It's the same result, but for me, you get a little bit more realistic things because most of the times when there's other types of consonants or enunciations, sometimes pitch will vary. And this is a great way of having it vary in a very natural way. So I can even do something like this
Follow.
versus this.
Follow.
This kind of has an emphasis on the follow, you know, really cool. Now, another thing you can really do is add harmonies this way. So let's duplicate this track and we'll make this Natalie.
I want to follow. Follow.
Right? We'll mute my and we'll check out Natalie.
I want to follow. Follow.
And we're noticing that Natalie doesn't sound the same. So what do? We come into here and we change things up. I like Natalie being soft. I get less tension, more breathiness. Let's take a listen.
I want to follow. Follow.
Right? Let's listen to them both now.
I want to follow. Follow.
And it kind of gives you some more creative control.
I want to.
I'm also noticing that right here, it's just not sounding good. So we can actually bring this up.
I want to.
And that still doesn't sound good. So we can actually go back down and see if that works.
I want to.
Nope. So what that's telling me is that this specific one is not really working. So let's recompute this and then generate a new take.
I want to.
And I'm saying that maybe it's the noise that you're getting. So we can actually use the pencil tool.
I want to.
And there we go. We fixed it. It sounds great now. And that's really where learning how to do the basics does come in handy. It was some noise that I wasn't liking. I edited it and suddenly
I want to.
it sounds way better. And the fact that you have this AI that generates new takes that you can then edit really does give you a lot of creative control. There's a ton of stuff behind this. It's a very powerful piece of software, but this is just me going over the basics of what I've learned in like 2 weeks of using it for like an hour a day. I really do think you can do a lot with it, but there's so many options that I haven't even begun to scratch. You can add dictionaries to it. You can add a ton more libraries, and then you can even control everything from the engine, how the quality of it is. I think for me, I have it set to just balance when you can actually have power saving and max performance. You can also restart the engine and you can have it do a more high quality render or not. And that's actually going to segue to the way that I like to use this. So what I'm going to do right now is mute Natalie, and we're going to just render down my. And I want you to listen to the differences that I hear. To me, the actual Synthesizer software itself, when it's playing live, seems to have a lot less artifacts than when you bounce it down. So here it is, bounce down.
I want to follow. Follow.
Listen to that too.
Want to.
Versus the plugin.
Want to. Want to follow. Follow.
Versus the faster than real-time render.
I want to follow.
You get less expression. So what I've learned to do to kind of help preserve that is when you bounce things out, you have to first of all make sure it's a proper destination. And we're going to do new test. And we're going to bounce out all these files. So this way, we're actually able to bounce them out. Now, what I do is I make it a stereo channel. I have the aspiration set up as a isolated channel. I set everything to what I usually work on. And then I do bounce to file. And we'll bounce these down. And then I will go down to my downloads folder and throw these into a session. Cool. So now I've imported Vox 1. you'll see that we have multiple tracks right here.
I want to follow.
Check out when I make the mono.
I want to follow.
Really cool, right? So what this has done is basically isolated the left and right into 4 channels, which is really interesting. And this is one performance. This is the consonants and all these weird little artifacts.
I want to follow.
Those are all the synthesized vocal parts.
I want to follow.
But when you have it summed into mono, it sounds absolutely fantastic. Now, let's listen to the vocals that we originally worked on, right? We have these 3 vocal parts, right? Let's solo this up and we'll listen to it.
Come here, let's go. Now come, follow me. Come here, come with me. Come on, follow me.
Cool. Let's bypass all of the plugins and listen to it.
Come here, let's go. Now come, follow me. Come here, come with me. Come on, follow me. Let's go.
Pretty good, right? You get a pretty realistic sound and you pretty much saw how fast it is to just make stuff work, right?
Come on, follow me. Let's go. Come with me.
And all I do for the processing is essentially get rid of a little bit of excess sibilance, get rid of some low end. In the case of the lead vocal, I added a lot of tape saturation and then some compression to make it really, really like consistent.
Come on, follow me.
Bypassed.
Come on, follow me. Come on, follow me.
That breathiness and airiness is really coming from that tape saturation. And then there's the background vocals. Check this out.
Come here, let's go. Come with me, come on, follow me.
And for this, we cut off all the low end under 450 hertz or so, 443. We added a brick wall limiter. We added a really aggressive modulation effect. This is basically a Dimension D chorus on steroids, so it's doing pitch shifting really badly or really aggressively, and then a plate reverb. And this is the effect that we get.
Come here, let's go. Come with me, come on, follow me. Let's go. Come with me.
Pretty cool, right? The bottom vocal is pretty much just the top one where I stripped it down and I made it even more aggressive. So this is it by itself.
Come here. Now come, follow me.
And when we turn on the processing, we see it's really aggressive telephone effect style EQ, a limiter, the same modulation, and then a similar reverb.
Come here. Now come, follow me. Come here.
And then when we take all of this out of solo,
Come here. Let's go. Now come, follow me. Come here. Come with me. Come on, follow me. Let's go. Come with me. Follow and you'll see.
pretty good, right? This is all synthesized vocal. None of this is real. So let's go to my final thoughts. In all honesty, I find Synthesizer V Studio Pro is a very powerful tool and actually a really useful software that I'm probably going to be using from now on when it comes to making demos. I think if you are a producer who makes music, if they have female vocal parts, this is a really powerful tool to help add some really sensual, kind of airy background vocals. Or if you are a beat maker and a songwriter and you work with other artists and you want to give them a rough idea of what you want them to perform, you can definitely use this in your production, being like, hey, this is what I'm thinking. You send that to your artist listens to it, they sing and play back into it, and they give you a new take. And you can either use their take and then have this one kind of like a telephone effect, kind of panned and ping pong delayed into the background to kind of give it some extra spice and air, or you can just not use it altogether. But this is a great way of saving time and adding a lot more creative power to your workflow. Overall, do I think this is a worthwhile product? Yeah. I mean, I know that this is huge in the K-pop and J-pop scene, but it's not really talked about in stuff as far as American style music. And I think it really should be because, like I said, this is a great scratch vocal. I can send this to an artist that I work with and have her record her parts over this and even keep some of it. Like, I really like the airy background vocals and stuff like that. So it's really something that I would definitely use, especially for demos. Like, maybe I want to make songs for YouTube, for the channel and stuff like that, make content. And I don't always want to have to pay an artist like $500 to record a song, right? Or I don't always want to have to go through copyright stuff. This is a great way for me to actually just get stuff done in a pretty fast manner. Once you really get learning how to use the software, it becomes extremely powerful. And let's keep in mind that I did not read the manual. Everything I'm learning on the fly, or I do a quick search on YouTube. And there's a huge community of people who use this stuff. So I just did a basic general, hey, let's check this out. This is what it sounds like. But if you guys do want to see more of how it works, just let me know and I can totally do a video series on technically just me learning the software and showing you what I've learned from it. Anyway, that's going to be it for this video. This is Jerry Mateo within the DAW. This has been a video on Dreamtonic's Synthesizer V Studio Pro. I'll see you guys next time.